Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Keys of the Castle podcast. I'm just hanging out here at home today. Was just watching an episode of the Tim Tracker YouTube channel, one of the YouTube channels, actually the one YouTube channel that got me started from the beginning and interested in Disney content and stuff like that. So shout out to uh, the Trackers. So good stuff. And today I'm going to be talking about a trip announcement. Super exciting. And also just a couple of ride updates with some of the new stuff coming out I think it's all to Disney World specifically. I guess one of the little updates is going to be for Disneyland as well. But either way, huge news, big, exciting news for me and the family. We have just booked our trip to Disneyland Paris, our very first trip to Disneyland Paris. So we are super excited for that. It's going to be the music festival going on while we're there. And super sad, Big Thunder Mountain's going to be closed, but that's okay. There's going to be plenty of other rides to get on. And so pretty much going to be talking a bit about that today. Things I'm excited for, things that are just on my mind. A bit of a hurdle that I have that I'm kind of navigating through with it. And yeah, just excited, a bit anxious, obviously, for certain things, a couple of things. But overall, super, super excited. So we're going to be going pretty soon in the next couple of months here. And yeah, I'm just so excited. So we're just going just for one day. We have park hopper tickets for one day. And after doing a bit of research, honestly, that seems fine. Um, I know maybe it's just one ride, but also the fact that Big Thunder Mountain is going to be closed, that does relieve quite a bit of pressure with not having to get on that ride and kind of, not having to squeeze quite as much in. So we're going to have the baby with us. I actually booked everything direct myself. So flights direct, hotel direct, Disney tickets direct. We're out here in this region. We live in the EU, so yeah, it was pretty easy to book things direct, and we actually had a bit of flight credit already on like one of our accounts with an airline, so that made it a bit easier as well. I had checked prices recently actually on flights, and they were just like astronomical. So I'm glad I was able to find something that was actually doable, because it's like I just couldn't understand why it was coming out to like 650 euros for like two people to fly like, you know, a couple hundred miles or something like that, like from Dublin to Paris or whatever, or even like Dublin to London, because we were going to do the Eurostar and stuff like that, which, um, you know, is a popular thing to do now, especially for Americans. But we are not going to do that. There is absolutely no need. It is not necessary, as far as I know. We're going to be just flying directly into Paris and probably either doing a shuttle to the hotels directly to Disneyland, or, you know, some other way possibly. We'll see how it goes. Um, and yeah, so that's all that's all booked and ready to go. The bit of a hurdle that I'm having is that I'm not sure about the other parks in Japan and China, but for Disneyland Paris, the gluten-free options, which, like I've said in previous episodes, my family does a lot of gluten-free stuff. So the gluten-free options in Paris are extremely thin. I mean, like razor sharp thin. Like there's, you know, basically most people that are gluten-free that go to Disneyland Paris, um, most people have their vacations ruined, I want to say, is what it kind of seems like because it's honestly that bad. I mean, even for me doing like tons of research ahead of time, it seems like even then there's going to be like really, really slim like selections. And of those slim selections, they're not great selections. And of those not great selections, it's like hopefully they're genuinely gluten free. So definitely quite a bit of a struggle. I mean, I guess it's the land of frickin' pastries and bread and croissants and what have you and whatnots. So maybe it's to be expected. But we're super excited. So I want to talk about a couple of the rides that are on the radar. Some of the main rides that are on the list to kind of hit for us. So I would say the number one ride for us, and there's a bunch obviously, but the number one ride for us is, I would say, Peter Pan. So that's the first ride that my wife and I ever got on together at any Disney park. It's the first ride that my daughter ever went on in any Disney park, which was in Disneyland in California. And so from what I've heard, the Peter Pan in Disneyland Paris is supposed to be really, really good. There's surprisingly a lot of the rides, because I've kind of had it on the radar as like one of the potential next parks for me to go to at Disneyland Paris. Like it was either between that or Florida, for kind of obvious logistical and geographical reasons. So for that reason, uh, but surprisingly though, I've actually not seen a lot of the ride throughs. I kind of give myself free range for like the Japan and, China parks and stuff like that because it's like, well, I'm not going to be going to those in like the near future. I mean, hopefully, but as far as I know, I wouldn't be going to those anytime in the near future. So it's kind of easy to give myself free reign to just watch those videos and watch those ride throughs. And I mean, it's not like I'm watching them every day. So like by the time I were to actually go or something, like I would probably have just forgotten what the rides were like or whatever, potentially. And yeah, a lot of this stuff, it's like, you can't really compare it to the real thing. And I'm sure it doesn't do it justice. Although that Pirates ride in China, I don't know if it's Shanghai or Hong Kong or both. I want to say Shanghai. That Pirates looks absolutely just insane, completely pure bananas insane with just how crazy and cool that it looks. Even on video, the special effects in that thing, like, I mean, this podcast is pretty darn hardcore classic Disney. Like, I'm a pretty kind of purist Walt Disney kind of guy, and I'm pretty anti screens. And man, the effects that they have in the Pirates of the Caribbean, I think it's in Shanghai or one of the China parks, like even on video, it looks real and it looks absolutely and completely mind-blowing, mind-boggling, insane. And so, yeah, that ride is pretty memorable, but I can't even imagine what that would be like if it's memorable on the video. Just imagine it in person. So anyway, all that to say, I haven't seen any of the ride-throughs for Peter Pan in Paris and some of the other rides that I'm excited to go on because I just haven't wanted to like spoil it or anything like that. So Peter Pan is one of them. I'm assuming it's great. I've heard a lot of good things about like the Fantasyland rides in Disneyland Paris. Just from what I've seen, like small, even just pictures and photos here and there, they look really, really good and high quality. I would say compared to Disneyland, which is my home park and the only Disney parks I've ever been to. Um, I would say compared to that Fantasyland, our Fantasyland in California is more of like the, old school vintage type Fantasylands, whereas I would say like Tokyo and Japan are probably the ones that are like more updated and things like that. I'm not sure because I haven't watched any of the ride throughs, but just from what I've seen, just flashes of, quick glimpses of photos and stuff like that. That's what it seems like. So I'm excited for those two. But yeah, all that to say, Peter Pan, super stoked. And yeah, it's interesting because without having Thunder Mountain there open when we go, there's not going to be, I don't know. I don't know why I feel like Thunder Mountain is really that tipping point of like whether or not there's going to be, whether or not it's going to feel like there's a lot of rides we need to do in Disneyland Paris, specifically in the Disneyland park side of the two parks. So taking that out of the equation, it feels like there's not much that we like are caring to do. The main rides I would say are Peter Pan, and the other one is Pirates of the Caribbean. So, I mean, oh my gosh, am I excited for Pirates of the Caribbean? I've seen tiny, tiny, tiny little like 1 or 2 second clips of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Even those little tiny clips that I've seen, I'm kind of upset about, just because I didn't want to see any of it. So I don't remember which Disney Plus documentary was on um, that we watched over the past few months that had a whole portion. I think it was the behind the attraction Pirates of the Caribbean episode. I think that's what it was. And I just completely skipped the entire portion for Disneyland Paris because I just didn't want to see it. And it seemed like the coolest part of that episode and documentary, but I skipped it. I'm really proud of myself. I've completely held off. So that's the other ride that we're excited to go on. Let me just see what else. Definitely for me personally would be the Haunted Mansion, aka Phantom Manor. So those are that's another one along with, Pirates of the Caribbean that we're really, really excited for. But honestly, I would say the main two ones in the Disneyland park that like we're like kind of like super hyped up for is just Pirates of the Caribbean and Peter Pan. Um, I was just looking at the map and all that stuff too of Disneyland Paris, and I'm kind of 50-50 on the fence about how I feel about that too. I kind of regret like looking at the map, although planning out some of the food stuff and stuff like that, like I kind of had no choice but to take a look at the map and kind of sort some things out, and also even just planning like what rides we're gonna do and stuff like that. Um, but I did notice that there was this whole kinda, I don't know if it's like a Peter Pan area, but there's like this whole area where it's kind of like a offshoot, it seems like, of I'll report back afterwards, but it seems like there's an offshoot of Fantasyland where, there's like, Captain Hook's pirate ship and this whole other like kinda pirate island type of a place. I think it might literally even be called Pirate Island. I don't know. I'm talking about things I don't know about because I haven't been there yet, but, um, yeah, it just seems really cool. So excited for that portion of the park. So I would say those are the main two things: Pirates of the Caribbean and Peter Pan. Other honorable mentions, though, would be for sure Phantom Manor. I'm extremely excited for that. And then the other one would be Hyperspace Mountain. Obviously, Thunder Mountain would be on the list, but it's not. One of the crazy things, so spoiler alert for Hyperspace Mountain, I actually did not know this. Again, maybe it's better that I knew this ahead of time, although not a big deal. Um, Either way, but from what I've heard, I think Hyperspace Mountain has 3 loops in it. I don't know if that's true, but I thought I heard that recently. So I'm excited for that. either way. So Peter Pan, Pirates of the Caribbean, Phantom Manor, Hyperspace Mountain. The other two rides that I'm most excited for Disneyland Paris is actually Snow White and Pinocchio, just because those are the original like classic Disney rides, and it's just going to be. It seems like it'll be like just so much more magical actually experiencing those rides in Europe, in a European country. So I'm super excited for that. Plus, they just seem like it just seems like those rides are more like the plussed and like polished, nicer versions of those rides. Again, Fantasyland and Disneyland is like kind of very, very like old school vintage feeling. So excited for those. Another thing about Snow White is that from what I've heard, I think their ride vehicle is actually like a little mine cart. So that just sounds super fun. Um, they also have the Storybook Canal ride, which I'm excited for. The like big whale, Monstro or whatever in Disneyland, California. On that ride is actually the tiger from Aladdin in Disneyland Paris. And again, just looks like a nicer, kind of bigger, kind of more plussed, you might say, version of that ride. So excited for that one. I don't know why it just hit me right now. I'm not sure if they have a monorail or not. But either way, yeah, those are some honorable mentions. But overall, I would say the four attractions that we're definitely like utmost excited about for Disneyland Paris would be Peter Pan, Pirates of the Caribbean, Ratatouille, and this is not a ride, but the attraction, um, basically the castle, walking through the castle, seeing the dragon, all that stuff. I am just like extremely stoked for that. And also just being there, being on Main Street, seeing the castle and like the hub, you can say, between Main Street and the castle. Like, I'm just so excited to experience that. I'm so excited to experience a brand new to me anyway. I'm so excited to experience another Disney park that I've not experienced before, and just a different version of Main Street, and get to see all of the cool and beautiful aspects of another Disneyland Main Street that's not just in California, which I realize is, the original one, but still, super excited. And then going on to the Walt Disney Studios park, the rides that we'd be kind of excited for that one is obviously Ratatouille. That's the main one. The Spider-Man one, I'm not too sure if my wife is too keen into riding that. We kind of both agree that Marvel doesn't really fit in the Disney parks in our kind of opinions, and I feel like she might be even more like strong on that than me. I did think that the Spider-Man ride in California was really, really cool and fun, so wouldn't mind doing it again. But at the same time, it's not like a top priority for me. So definitely Ratatouille. The other one is the what is it? The Cars Road Trip. So I'm a little bit worried. I'm not sure if the baby will be, you know, too freaked out on that one or not. I only looked at kind of like a cover photo of that ride, and so it does seem like it should be okay for the baby. So we'll probably just kind of go for it and see what happens. I don't know. I might play it safe and watch a video before we get on or something. But I know it's all heights, no height or age restriction or anything like that. So gonna go on that. Super excited for the Toy Story area of the park. So specifically, my wife and daughter really, really love Toy Story. More so my wife probably than both of us. So it's really cool. I'm not going to tell her, but it'll be a surprise because she doesn't know that that's there. So I'm just not going to say anything about that. But yeah, excited for that. That might be cool. My daughter might have fun going on there's a really small, very simple Slinky Dog ride. It's not like the Walt Disney one, Walt Disney World version. It's just like a really small little kiddie ride that I think just goes in a little bit of a circle. So may or may not go on that one. We'll see how it goes. For me on the Walt Disney Studio side, the absolute main rides that I'm extremely excited for are Ratatouille and the Hollywood Tower of Terror. So the Hollywood Tower of Terror, that was actually one of my very favorite rides from Disneyland California Adventure in California. And I was absolutely crushed. I was so angry when the decision was made and I heard that they were changing it. It just really kind of made no sense to me. But hey, you know what? That's fine. Like, it's not fine, but it happened. So yeah, I'm super excited to do that one. Um so the kind of not the downside, but something I was a little bit bummed about finding out about for the Hollywood Tower of Terror in Paris is that it's not actually the same ride version as Walt Disney World. So Walt Disney World is kind of like the bigger, most epic, full version where the ride does like other things and it's kind of bigger and there's more just I don't know if I need to worry about spoiler alerts, but basically, it doesn't just go spoiler alert, it doesn't just go up and down. So I did find out that in terms of the ride itself, the Paris version is a carbon copy of the California version, which is like a, I guess, more simplified version of the Walt Disney World ride. But either way, I'm super stoked. What kind of makes up for it is kind of something that I've heard. At least in my head, this kind of makes up for it. Is that they recently did like an update to the Tower of Terror. I'm not sure if it's just the lobby or the theming, but I heard that there was some sort of update to the theming that kind of makes it more, I don't know, more spooky or realistic or whatever. They just improved the theming and put more into that recently. So I'm super, super, super excited about that. Like to the point of almost being emotional because I have such good memories on the Hollywood Tower of Terror with just, I don't know, man. That was just our main ride during the time of my life where I was going to Disneyland all the time with, people, friends, and family that I loved. That was like our main ride. And the vibe of the ride, it just fit our vibe so perfect. And yeah, so I'm super excited to get on that ride. Other than that, at Walt Disney World Studios, I am very curious about the Avengers coaster. I don't know how, like, a lot of these rides are like never spoken about. Like, I didn't even know that there were Cars rides at Disneyland Paris until like I feel like this year, like within the past few months. Like, I don't know. It's just so weird to me that like that's just not something that's spoken about because the fact that there's Cars rides at California, like, it's such a big deal. Like, even just not even just the Radiator Springs Racers, but just the fact that there's, like, land on the other rides. So, I don't think there's not a Cars Land in Disneyland Paris, and I'm not gonna lie, the theming, just based off of looking at the map of Walt Disney World Studios, and even of Disneyland Park, like, the theming does seem kind of spotty. Like, it doesn't seem very cohesive, or like it doesn't I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what it's like, but, yeah, so they have Cars rides there. Um, Curious about those. And again, I feel like the Avengers Coaster, that's just one of the ones at Disneyland Paris that's not ever spoken about, so I have no idea what to expect with that. Like, I don't think it's on the level, as in, like, I'm 99.99% sure that's nowhere near the level of Cosmic Rewind, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Walt Disney World. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know because I haven't heard anything. So I kind of am guessing it's just like a really, really, really cool roller coaster where it's like, basically just a roller coaster, but it's themed as Avengers, but it's also done by Disney. So it makes it like really, it's really done well. Um, so that's kind of the idea that I'm guessing. So we'll see. I'll report back obviously and do, I'm sure, a bunch of episodes on once we've gone. And yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit anxious. Although I always kind of get this way with Disneyland where I'm like, I get so excited to the point where I'm like, well, is this going to meet my expectations? Or am I just, do I need to like really lower my expectations? So I'm almost getting this idea from Disneyland Paris that it's kind of like almost just a Disney version of a normal theme park, and it's just based in Paris. So what I mean by that is that, like, I guess if I'm comparing it to the US parks seem to have like certain aspects about them that are like really, really just kind of, I don't want to say over the top, but they really have a lot of um things to them that makes them like really special, which like I guess some examples would be like Star Wars Land and Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, and they have, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is not the greatest ride ever of all time, but it's still like really cool. And even just California Adventure, like it's a small park, but it's bigger than the Walt Disney Studios park, and it's just, to me, it's pretty well themed, like for the most part. Like I've always enjoyed the vibes there and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it just seems like there's like, you know, it almost seems like a regular theme park just with like a Disney overlay in Disneyland Paris. And this is just from the outset, so I could be completely wrong. But like, it just seems like there's roller coaster A, B, C, and D, and they just happen to be like Avengers themed, Indiana Jones themed, Star Wars Hyperspace Mountain themed, and Thunder Mountain, which I think Thunder Mountain is the exception because that one is meant to be full on epic. But yeah, that's just kind of the vibe that I'm getting. And then you've got some of the kiddie rides, which are just like normal. Um, and yeah, I don't think there's too much else. Like there's no Jungle Cruise in Adventureland. Um, there's no Toontown in Disneyland Paris. There's no Star Wars Land. So I'm probably just comparing, you know, Paris with Disneyland California too much. But nonetheless, I am super, super, super excited. And honestly, the fact that there's like, again, the fact that it feels like there's not an overwhelmingly a lot of things to do, it just makes me more excited to just relax and have a good time. So, um, yeah, I think I'm just going to kind of call it here. I'll just fly through the updates of the new rides at Disney World, even though I don't even have time for that, because I'm going to wrap it up here. But basically, they just released some new footage of the new Monsters Inc. ride, and also kind of a video clip of some of the stuff that they're working on for the new Cars Rally ride. And then I think this has been announced, but there's like a new story or like storyline for Millennium Falcon or something like that. So just wanted to throw those in last minute. I wanted to talk about them a bit more, but just realizing I'm running out of time here. I will probably split this up into another episode where it's continuing talking about Disneyland Paris and maybe some of the other updates as well, like at Disney World and stuff. But anyway, that's going to do it for this one. So thanks so much for listening, guys. As always, whatever is good, whatever is true, whatever is pure, think on these things. All right, guys, take care.